Today we're going to look at how to pass on Sindragosa, the Frost Worm. This is a very mechanically fun fight for a Feral Druid. Right away you can see that I'm using Foji's Weak Aura pack. This is a pack for all the ICC bosses. I think it's incredible, I think it's the best one out there. I've put a link to both his Twitch channel and his Discord server in the description below where you can find this pack. As soon as you pull her, you'll see this minimum landing warning counting down. This is a minimum, not a set amount, because she circles around off the ledge, and her actual landing time is determined by how long she has to fly for. The time when you will enter combat is right when she touches the ground. Use this to know when to pop your speed pot. It should be right before she sets down. Do not be the closest person to her when she engages combat, or she will turn and one-shot you. Make sure the tank is the closest person. This boss has 3 phases. She's going to cycle between the first and second phase, a ground and air phase, over and over again until your raid gets her low enough that she enters phase 3. In phase 1 on the ground here, she only really has 2 mechanics for you to worry about. The first one is this stacking debuff called Chilled to the Bone. This debuff starts out very weak, but will continue to stack over time, and starts to get a little noticeable around 4 or 5, and then get quite dangerous at stacks 8, 9, and 10 and beyond. Feral is of course excellent at passively mitigating this, and has some fantastic on-use cooldowns with Bark Skin and Survival Instincts that you can wait until you start to get higher stacks and will allow you to ride it out pretty nicely. Especially if you are talented correctly, I highly recommend going 2 points in Nurturing Instinct for this fight. Well, for all of Icecrown really. It'll help your healers keep you up, and you can greed these mechanics for more damage. Ideally, you just focus the boss like a giant target dummy all the way until she takes off, and let these stacks get higher and higher, but if your healers can't keep you up through that, or you don't want to be greedy, there is a special trick that you can do, which I'm using in this video, to take the burden off your healers a little bit, play a little safer, and not lose that much damage. All of our damaging incidences on the boss have an equal chance to proc this debuff, whether it's a shred, a rake, rip, or a melee hit. This is why, as you can see in the video, when my stacks start to get high, I will turn my character roughly 90 degrees away from the boss. This is turned just far enough that I won't be meleeing her, but not too far that I can't use my abilities. This drastically reduces the rate at which you proc Chilled to the Bone, and by doing this you can keep your energy from capping, you can continue to shred, bite, everything you otherwise would, and your stacks will just drop off all by themselves, just because you aren't meleeing her. The only other mechanic you have to worry about in the ground phase is called Icy Grip. Every now and then she will attempt to pull the entire raid into the middle of her model, and then will begin to charge an ability called Blistering Cold. All you need to do is get a few shreds off, try and dump your energy before you run out, and then immediately feral charge right back onto her. That's the entirety of the ground phase mechanics that you have to worry about. Any decent boss pack Weak Aura, in this case Foji's, will tell you when her air phase is about to begin. You should be keeping an eye on this timer, because you will want to refresh Rip right before she takes off. If you get in a greedy bite that otherwise would be fine 6 or 7 seconds before Rip falls, but it means you can't refresh Rip in time for her taking off, you've lost an enormous amount of damage. You're going to want to refresh your Rip even if it's already up on her, right as she's taking off. If Rip has any less than about 8 seconds left, go ahead and refresh it early. Phase 2, Air Phase. What you do in this phase depends on one thing, which is, are you about to spend the next minute of your life sitting AFK as a block of ice? You really don't want to be an ice block this phase, because there's a lot we can do in the air phase to help optimize for our damage when she's back on the ground. Here's what we're going to do to min-max our damage while she's in the air. Like any competition, it's important to know the rules before you try to compete. And on Sindragosa, damage done to ice blocks does not count towards your pass. If your raid needs you to damage the ice blocks, then Swipe is an excellent tool for this, as it hits all 6 ice blocks. If your raid doesn't need your help in order to kill the tombs in time, then be very careful before you even touch them. I track my trinkets, as you can see here on my Weak Aura bar. This tells me their internal cooldown, meaning that I am completely safe to hit these ice tombs without it proccing my trinkets. If my trinkets were not on cooldown, it would be very risky to hit the tombs, because it would likely proc my trinkets. I want them to be up when I'm hitting the boss, not the tombs. The second thing to do in this phase is that if you don't have 5 combo points on Sindragosa herself when she takes off, then you can instead build 5 combo points on one of these tombs and just sit there waiting until the phase is about to finish. Right before your raid lead calls to destroy the tombs, use those 5 points to Savage Roar. Just be careful about doing this if your trinkets are off cooldown. The only other thing to worry about in this phase is the actual mechanic of this phase, called Frost Bomb. Here on the screen I'm going to show you it's these light blue circles that appear somewhere in front of the ice blocks. These will kill you if they have line of sight to you. meaning if you can draw a line between yourself and where that bomb falls, and there isn't a tomb between you and the bomb, you will die. That's it, that's the entire phase. When she lands, she will already have threat on the tank. She does not wipe her aggro table, so it's very helpful you can start DPSing immediately while she's already in the air. Don't worry about being too close to her or her hitting you or anything like that. The final phase of this fight begins when the boss reaches 35% health. You'll know because she yells out something about her master's limitless something something. At this point, she will no longer take off. The rest of the fight is going to be her on the ground. As well as the stacking chilled to the bone debuff which we mentioned earlier, we've also got another debuff called Mystic Buffet. Mystic Buffet, which does no damage itself, but causes you to take more magic damage from all other sources. This stacks. Unfortunately, Mystic Buffet has nothing to do with you hitting the boss. The only way to drop it is to hide behind the ice tombs that she will randomly cast on your raid members. Feral can survive letting these stacks get very high, especially if you have Barkskin and Survival Instincts available, but just remember, this is a multiplier on how much magic damage you take. If either one of those two debuffs is high at once, that's fine. If they're both high at the same time, you're gonna die. Let your Chill to the Bone stacks drop if your Mystic Buffet is at more than 3 or 4, and once you reach 3 or 4 on your buffet, you're going to want to go hide behind an ice block. Any good boss weak aura for this fight, like Foji's, will show you a timer for when her Mystic Buffet casts are coming out. Remember, you only need to be hiding behind the ice block when her cast goes out. You don't need to be waiting behind it for 6, 7, 8 seconds. There is no point doing that, it's just lost damage. So that's the entire fight. Phase 1 is extremely easy for Feral. We can almost ignore the Chill to the Bone. Phase 3, the entire raid is taking a massive amount of magic damage, so it's unlikely you'll be able to just blindly tunnel the boss. But if you cleverly use your defensives, which does not mean using them off cooldown, it means saving them until you need them, which is when you have high Mystic Buffet and Chill to the Bone at the same time. By properly using your abilities and dumping as much energy as you can before you have to run out and hide, you should very rarely cap energy on this fight. And that's it. Good luck. Have fun.